The global pandemic has brought much of the world to a standstill. But for Canadian business owners, the bills still have to be paid. Monthly mortgage payments still being deducted. They still need to get food on the table for their families. Despite Ottawa's $82 billion stimulus package for those who have been economically hurt, business owners across the country are fearful for their livelihoods.
It's devastating. Supply of restaurants and bars. So 60% of our business shut down overnight.
I've emailed my landlords and banks to see what's the situation going to be. My understanding is I'll still have to pay my rent, still have to pay my operating costs. I don't qualify for EI at this time. My employees are asking too, do I have a job?
If we could get government, business and communities to do everything we can to alleviate fear and anxiety, we're going to get through this.
So owners affected, their workers affected, thousands out of a job, temporarily they hope, but they have very similar concerns. Will the aid package announced yesterday be enough to tide them over until better times? We welcome the Finance Minister to our program today. Bill Morneau is in our studio in Ottawa, and he's given us a lot of time for my questions, for your questions. Welcome, Minister Morneau. Thank you for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me on, Heather.
I want to begin with a viewer question we got literally seconds ago because it crystallizes where I was going to begin, but what is clearly on the minds of our viewers this morning. So Hélène Demers, thank you very much for this. The question, this is what she says, Minister Morneau. The package you introduced is great, except it doesn't give access to money for Canadians right away. Your program takes too long to take effect. Canadians need money now. When will Canadians get cash in hand?
Well, this is of course a really important question. It's exactly the question that we had in mind when we started figuring out this not that long ago, I might add. We thought about how do we use our existing administrative approaches to get money to people quickly. We know people are going to be facing, in many cases, challenges immediately. So that's been forefront in our mind. We have to do a few things. We obviously had to design the programs. They're brand new. We came out with them yesterday. We need to pass legislation, which we're literally working on today, and we hope to have the House of Commons and the Senate back in very short order to do that. And when I say very short order, I mean over the weekend or Monday or Tuesday. That's how fast we're moving. We've started on the administration to make sure that it can move forward.
Yes.
And, literally we are working hour by hour to make sure this works. Our goal is to get money in people's hands, especially people who don't have access to employment insurance, and to do that in 2 to 3 weeks. And that's using systems that already exist, like the Canada Revenue Agency, to make sure that we can deliver on that.
So
there's
2 to 3 weeks.
I
just would jump in and add, though, 2 to 3 weeks, although in some cases we're looking at it may take rolling out into May before people start to see any money. And some people are wondering, yes, you did put this together very quickly and they are praising you for that. But why use this whole mechanism of delivery, this whole application process through existing programs? Why not just mail out checks so people have money ASAP?
Well, the process of mailing out checks, it might sound easy, but we have to know where to mail checks to. We need to know who the recipients are. So there's things that we must get right, and we are working on that right now. We have existing social security systems that we're using. So the employment insurance system has been around for generations. We're going to use that. We are setting up the new programs for people who aren't in the employment insurance system, and that's going to use an existing Canada Revenue Agency approach, which in most cases actually won't be people getting checks. It'll be direct deposit into people's accounts because that's the way most people get money back from the Canada Revenue Agency. So it's thinking about those things so we can move quickly. And then the broad-based programs, we are trying to use things, again, that exist. So the Canada Child Benefit, we've put a top up for children, for each child in a family, because that already exists, and that money will be able to go out in we think, May. The GST low income tax credit is something that already exists, so we're using that for low income families, many of whom will be hit. So there's multiple ways we're approaching this, Heather.
Yes.
And we completely understand the urgency, which is why we've chosen the approaches we've chosen, which we think will work.
When you're talking about May, and we know that Canadians, more than half, live paycheck to paycheck, May's a long time away, and they need the help right now.
Well, I want to be clear. There are going to be different things that we're doing at the same time, and so one of them very clearly is setting up this new approach for those people that are not in the employment insurance system, and that we expect we'll be able to have money to people within the 2 to 3 week time period. So look, if we could find a way to sit down at a desk and write checks today, we would. This is the fastest way we can determine how to get money out to people, and we're going to, every day, we're working on this to see if there's ways we can do it more rapidly, recognizing the challenges. But again, we've been very focused, and with the information we have today, to deal with the immediate problem, and that's to make sure that people have money for essentials like food and medicine and rent. We've worked together with other sectors of the economy, so we've worked together with banks. I heard some of the comments from small business owners, things like allowing people to have mortgage deferrals, allowing banks are saying that they're going to take, for their commercial customers, they're going to allow them to skip a payment on their principal and their interest if they have a loan line. So we're doing that while we increase credit to small businesses. So we're working on multiple fronts at the same time. It's an unprecedented situation. We have more information coming in daily, and as we have more information, we will consider how we improve these approaches. If there's new ideas that come out of that, we will be doing our best to be very nimble to respond in a way that actually deals with these challenges.
And you have indicated that this is just the first phase. At the end of these 14 weeks that will be covered by this assistance, what then?
You know, we want to make sure that people understand we are going to give people information when we have it. We'll be transparent about what we know and what we don't know. So we don't know now the full impact. We don't know the duration of the impact of this virus on Canadians, most importantly, or on the Canadian economy. So once we have a better understanding, and it comes in daily, we'll rethink, remodel, and ensure that our processes are working. So this is going to be all hands on deck for a long time until we get through this. But what I can say is, you know, I'm confident, as challenging as it is, that it's temporary. I'm confident that as challenging as it is, we have a highly talented workforce. We have a great country with great resources. We will come out of this, but we need to use what we have now: strong healthcare system, a federal government with the capacity to help out, to help us to get through a really challenging time.
So, you're confident it is temporary, but as you indicated, we don't know how long this is going to be the situation with which we're confronted. We heard from Dr. Tam, our chief public health doctor, yesterday, talking about another wave of the outbreak, talking about this extending for some time. And I'm sure you'll be aware in the United States, the reports are they're talking about waves of pandemic, and how the plan would have to go out in the United States to continue on for up to 18 months. So if we're talking about temporary but long term, the suggestion could be that the economy is going to be slowing for months and months to come. Is that a recession we should be thinking about?
You know, really, from my perspective, now's not the time to be defining what it is that we're going to see in our economy over the months and months to come.
But Canadians need to be mentally prepared for this.
I agree. We all need to recognize that this challenge could endure for longer than we hope. What I think we need to do as the government is we need to take the information that we have. We need to recognize that many Canadians right now feel like they just don't have the ability to do what they would normally want to do, whether it's to, you know, provide food and support for their family, or for small businesses to figure out a way to bridge this. So we as the government, we need to think about what are the supports we can give people in a time of need. We're going to try to get the right actions at the right time and the right sequence. And now what we're focused on is bridging this challenge for people, most importantly getting money to people who are immediately vulnerable, trying to bridge the time for businesses, both small and large.
Yes.
And find ourselves at the end of this, and again, we can't be certain of when that is, but find a way that as we get into a better situation, that we can start our economy going in a way that will allow for us to continue to have the great opportunities we have in Canada. So it is going to be step by step by step, being recognizing that we don't know everything, but we should set up our programs based on what we know, and adjusting and improving. We might need to put new things out there, but we have the fiscal ability to do that. We're uniquely advantaged in Canada that we have a strong underlying fiscal situation for the government, which gives us the capacity to deal with this and to daily learn what the next steps should be.
Let us continue on with some of the questions from our viewers. Minister Morneau, I began with one. We were speaking earlier this morning with a woman in Toronto whose pub, Dave's in Toronto, had been open for 10 years, but she made the very difficult decision to shut it down. And I asked her to put a question directly to you. So here is Liz Garrier, as she has a question about the money available to a business like hers.
We don't need more loans. We all have lots and lots of loans. I'd like to know what the government is going to be able to do to support the many small restaurants and bars around our country. I'd like to know how we will be supported, what kind of aid will be available that does not take the form of a loan.
So, you heard the question. She does not want another loan. She would like to have something more direct. What do you say to Liz and others in that situation, Minister Morneau?
What I'd say to Liz and to other small businesses is people have worked for years, decades, generations to build up their businesses. We know how incredibly challenging this moment is. So we're trying our best to support people first, to make sure that we deal with the reality that we can't have a situation where people who are not able to work because they're sick or because they don't have work, because they might work in Liz's bar but she can't afford to continue paying them, that they have enough money for food. It's absolutely essential that we get at that job immediately. At the same time,
not in the form of loans, though. She's not interested in...
Well, I'm talking about for individuals. Mm-hmm. And so then for businesses, what are we trying to do? We're trying to help them bridge this time. We did give a wage subsidy for those businesses that can keep people on. We've given them a subsidy.
10%. She thought that wasn't enough when some other countries are doing 75, for example.
I appreciate that, and people will have their points of view of how we should do things at a particular moment in time. We think getting food on people's table is the absolutely critical first step.
Okay.
We think that helping businesses is critically important. So there's multiple things, Heather, that we're doing here. Working with the banks is important. Allow people to skip a payment or skip a mortgage is important. Giving subsidies for employees is important. As we have more information, we will think about that. At the same time, we're also going to have to work with those big employers because many employees could be in a difficult situation. So it's one of those times where we have to do multiple things at the same time. And as new information emerges, new challenges, we'll be nimble to try and deal with those things, but recognize first things first.
We have had a number of questions, people wondering about their RRSP, so I'm going to combine a couple together for you. Dee Mills was writing about how she and her husband are 63 years of age, have no income, and have not been able to secure a job at their particular time. But what they're wondering is, would you consider letting seniors who are 61 access their pensions with no penalty? In other words, receive full pension as if they were 65. So that's that's more of a pension question. I'll have some more RSPs to come. But would you ever consider at this time allowing them to access a pension early?
We've looked at a whole range of things that need to be considered and the situation of so many different people, obviously. So I can start by saying we haven't taken any ideas off the table because we do need to be open-minded in the face of a challenge. What we're trying to make sure is that we do the right thing at the right time. So that idea, getting pensions early, for most people, if they actually are in a pension plan, they can get their pensions early. But that's not a huge number of people in the context of the economy. Most plans will allow that. In terms of their RRSP, people can take money out of their RRSP. I think the worry is always, that they pay tax when they do
well,
so.
Well, that's a question from Alex Urbanowitz, similar to that. Why are you not allowing Canadians to withdraw funds from an RRSP tax-free to help themselves get through the financial crisis rather than offering government assistance?
Well, first of all, we appreciate that situations are going to be different and different people are going to have different ideas. There's 5.7 million Canadians out of our 19 million workforce that don't have access to employment insurance. So the reason we focused on that first is for those 5.7 million people, in many, if not most cases, they won't have the savings for them to pay for medicine and food and rent. So that's a really important starting point. I'm not saying that we can't consider other measures, but if people are off work because they're laid off or because they have to, their job doesn't allow them to get paid if they're at home, then that's job one for us. And thinking about how other people might support themselves, yes, we're contemplating those ideas, but we have to focus our resources. We also need to make sure that we have the capacity not only today, but for the next stage. So we're going to need to make decisions that enable us to continue to have that ability to move out of this as the time comes. So it is certainly something that requires us to be open to new ideas.
Yes.
But we do need to focus our efforts at the right time in the right place.
This is a question from Jim Ressett, who's the managing director of a small not-for-profit based in Alberta, which of course has its own particular economic challenges, but for him and his company, important revenue streams are drying up. So what about federal aid for not-for-profits, which operate as small business essentially? Are you looking specifically at that sector?
We're looking at there are some sectors that are particularly hard hit. So yes, we're doing an analysis of sectors. In Alberta, the oil and gas sector has not only the impact of COVID-19, but at the same time, oil prices that we haven't seen in a generation. So we have a huge challenge in that sector, which we have people working through right now. We have a team working with that sector to think about how we help to bridge that. It's an enormous challenge, but a very big focus. Mm-hmm. For not-for-profits, we're treating small not-for-profits in the same way as we're treating small businesses. They're going to get a wage subsidy by employee. That's really critically important, and we're worrying about their employees. So we're worrying about those people that might not have the ability to pay for their daily life. So we're thinking about it in those two contexts at the same time. And then you'll know, Heather, that we've deferred taxes on everyone, on every corporation, on every individual through until so that nothing gets paid until just before September 1st, August 31st. So that is a very, very significant way for us to leave money in the economy, to leave people with the capacity to deal with this issue, this temporary issue in a way that makes sense.
Let me ask, because as we are on the air this morning, the dollar is somewhere around 70 cents. Futures are not looking good. We're talking about companies closing their doors and thousands of jobs in limbo, temporarily, perhaps at risk permanently. Canadians are hurting, and they are telling us that. What is it like to be the finance minister in these times?
The challenge is we really do need to think about what we know and what we don't know.
But I mean, for you personally, how are you bearing this weight?
I think what we all have to do is recognize that we don't choose the challenges that we get. We need to face up to what we face in our job. From my perspective, I feel like it's fortunate that I've been doing this role since 2015, because you understand what the tools are in the government, what things work quickly to help people. So that experience base is critically important. For me personally, it's an intense time period, but it's an opportunity to help people to think about how we help businesses, and it'll be a moment for Canada. We need to get through this together. We need to support each other, and obviously I want to play a central role in helping so many people at a time of personal anxiety, at a time of collective anxiety over our economy. But I also want to give people confidence. As difficult as this is, and it is difficult for people who are facing health risks, there's another end to this. And the other end is, we have a great country. We have a great system. This is showing us at a time where we can work together. And I want us to come out of this strong and be able to get back to to great opportunities for Canadians.
Finance Minister Bill Morneau, I thank you for giving us so much time today. I dare say there will be more viewer questions based on our conversation, and I hope you might think about coming back and answering some more of them again as we continue to confront this.
Well, I absolutely will, Heather. I want to be not only helping people with real measures, but also thinking about how we listen to them so we get to new ideas for the next phase of what we might do.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you again. Finance Minister Bill Morneau in Ottawa this morning.